Okay.
Let me go back to our guest speaker who's standing by in Hong Kong. Here is a growing consensus in the mainland, at least, that it is very, very difficult to persuade Trump and his team in the White House to change their roadmap in restricting the alleged assertiveness of the Chinese expansion economically. And therefore, many argue, or start to argue, perhaps it's a good time to use the adverse circumstances of the trade war and force the Chinese authorities at different levels to further open up our economy. And therefore, do you think the symbolic official visit by Mr. Xi Jinping to Guangdong to attend the opening ceremony would highlight the avowed goal of the central government in this regard, in this direction?
I probably won't read it that way. I mean, I had the honor of attending the ceremony this morning in Zhuhai.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there. And, you know, I see it as twofold. A, this is a magnificent, you know, project. It symbolizes the advancement of technology and the building technology, the level of Chinese in building infrastructure at the world level. So just for that, it's worth the president's, you know, presence to see such a magnificent project. And secondly, this is a major infrastructure for the GBA, for the Greater Bay Area, which is also one of the initiatives that the presidency is really supporting and pushing. So for those two reasons, I think is why he attended. I think, I'm not an expert in trade war, obviously, but I think the GBA's advancement and the development with or without the trade war will happen. I don't exactly agree with what Charles said. I think Hong Kong will remain as a international financial center, second to none and challenged by none other Chinese mainland cities. However, as a finance center, you need real economy, and you need to, you know, work with manufacturing. It's not a gambling ground. It has to be able to support the real economy, and which is what is happening in the Greater Bay Area, both in technology side, such as Shenzhen and Dongguan, but also at some of the upgrading of the manufacturing side on the west of the Pearl River bank. I travel a lot within the Pearl River. You know, I just came back from Zhuhai actually on Saturday night. And the reason why I had to go through Zhuhai was actually I was delivering a speech in Zhongshan, but because the last ferry from Zhongshan was 8 o'clock, I have to, and I had to attend dinner, so I have to actually get to Zhuhai to take the 9:30, the last ferry back to Hong Kong. If we had a bridge last Saturday that I can travel through, I don't have to go through the hassle of, you know, managing my time around the ferry schedule. And this is really real need for a lot of people working both in you know, technology research and also as a personal visit, friendly. I mean, a lot of people from Hong Kong originated from also places like Zhongshan and Zhuhai and for that matter, south of Guangzhou. So I think the bridge as a physical infrastructure will facilitate further communication and between the Hong Kong people and those of the west bank of Pearl River. And that will also help to introduce more cooperation between Hong Kong and those areas. I mean, Hong Kong is trying to reform itself from a pure financial center and tourist center into also a technology-led growth economy model, and that with our you know, very sound fundamental research capability in our universities, will need the industry base of the Pearl River Delta, and having the high-speed train and also this big bridge will help to facilitate that.
There's no doubt that this monumental bridge will help further build connectivity and co-prosperity between the three sides as a landmark gesture to encourage inclusiveness. That should be one major policy option for this generation of the Chinese Communist leadership. Having said this, what will be the other viable policy options on the table for this Greater Bay Area so that, for example, Qianhai could be yet another role model other than the broad impact of Shenzhen that was initiated and embarked upon 4 decades ago?
Well, first of all, I think Shenzhen is still special. I mean, it's not just about the policies, but also about the mentalities of local officials, how they embrace change, embrace reform. And Shanghai is very special in the case that it's until now, it is the only entity that link up, that's built for Hong Kong and Shenzhen cooperation. Of course, we will have another park later on in a few years' time. But I think that what I see in the GBA, though, is a bit different. If you look at 1978, when they have preferential policy, at that time it's about attracting investment, about allowing people to do certain things that were not allowed before. Now it's different. Now it's not just allowing them, but about transforming how things are being done. It includes like not just business licenses, but also things like opening of finance. How do you, for example, Shanghai have some policies about foreign direct investment and also about domestic direct investment outside. Also allowing some new innovation in terms of its legal infrastructure. How we allowed commercial dispute to be tried in Hong Kong law. All these kind of trials, I think, if it's successful, can be replicated both in the GBA and also in other parts of China. I think what GBA also brings is it's a timing thing as well. If you look at 40 years ago, Hong Kong was a window of foreign investment into China, foreign procurement agent into China. Now it's the other way around. It's about China going out. It's about Chinese enterprise investing or expanding into Belt and Road countries and for that matter the whole world. And again, Hong Kong can play that window role because we have a very obviously very strong international financial center. Difference between Hong Kong and Shanghai and Shenzhen is that the money here are international money. They're not just mainland money. So they are international investors who want to, get a share of get a share in the reform of China, get a share of the growth of China and also the growth of China into the Belt and Road countries.
The last question, excuse me, the last question is very much about what happened prior to Mr. Xi Jinping's visit to Guangdong to attend the opening ceremony. He wrote a letter to the private owners of the Chinese economy, encouraging them to show their initiative and to inject more dynamics into the underperforming part of the Chinese economy. He used the word of indelible and indubitable to characterize the enormous contributions, historic contributions that the SMEs and non-public sector of the economy made to our general performance of the economy. Now, due to the high-handed crackdown on P2P and also excessive taxation, due to the very difficult access that the private economy has to loans and funding, the non-public sector finds it increasingly difficult to be regarded as a normal player in the general picture of China's economic development. What does this letter mean? First of all, Charles.